All right. Let's dive into something that's probably on your mind a lot.
Yeah.
Making those retirement savings last.
Yeah.
And not just last, but thrive without getting eaten away by taxes.
Right.
We're going to unpack some serious strategies here. But I think what grabbed me from these sources was the idea that you might actually have more control
Yeah.
over your retirement tax burden than you think.
Oh.
For example, did you know there are ways to potentially withdraw money completely tax-free in retirement?
A fascinating concept, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it all starts with understanding that your retirement savings aren't just one big pot of money.
Right.
It's more like having a diversified portfolio of accounts,
Okay.
each with its own set of tax rules.
Yeah.
Think of it as having different tools in your toolbox.
Yeah.
You wouldn't use a hammer for every job.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
So what are the main tools or accounts we're talking about here?
The three main types you'll encounter are taxable accounts,
Okay.
tax-deferred accounts, and Roth accounts.
Okay.
And the key difference between them lies in when you pay taxes and at what rate.
Got it.
Yeah.
So taxable accounts are pretty straightforward, like a regular brokerage account.
Right.
You pay taxes on any interest or dividends you earn each year.
Mm-hmm.
But what about those tax-deferred accounts?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have 401ks and traditional IRAs.
Yeah.
Those fall into this category, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And with these accounts, you get a nice tax break up front.
Okay.
Your contributions are tax deductible,
Uh-huh.
which means they reduce your taxable income in the year you contribute.
Yeah.
Sounds great, right?
Sure does. Less taxes now sounds pretty appealing.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing there's a catch.
Yeah.
You don't get something for nothing, right?
You're catching on.
Uh-huh.
The catch is that you'll have to pay taxes on those withdrawals in retirement.
Okay.
And here's where it can get tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Those withdrawals are taxed as ordinary income, which could mean a higher tax rate than if it were a long-term capital gain,
Yeah.
especially if you have other income sources in retirement.
Okay, so delaying taxes might not always be the best move.
Right.
It depends on your tax bracket now versus in retirement, right?
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this is why understanding the different account types and their tax implications is so crucial. It's not just about saving, it's about saving strategically.
All right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've got our taxable accounts, our tax-deferred accounts.
Right.
That leaves us with the Roth accounts.
Right.
What makes them so special?
Think of Roth accounts as the VIP lounge of retirement savings.
Okay.
You contribute after-tax dollars,
Yeah.
so you don't get that immediate tax deduction. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
All qualified withdrawals in retirement are completely tax-free.
Wait, seriously? You mean you can withdraw money from a Roth IRA in retirement and not owe a single cent in taxes?
Yep.
That seems almost too good to be true.
It's one of the most powerful benefits of Roth accounts.
Wow.
And there's another perk.
Okay.
No required minimum distributions or RMDs,
Okay.
like you have with traditional IRAs and 401k.
Okay, back up a second.
Sure.
What are RMDs and why should I care?
Imagine you're 73 years old, enjoying a comfortable retirement.
Okay.
Suddenly, the government steps in and says, hey, it's time to start withdrawing a certain percentage from your tax-deferred accounts every year, whether you need the money or not.
Wow.
Those are RMDs.
Oh, okay.
And guess what?
What?
Those withdrawals are taxed as ordinary income.
So not only do you have to take money out, but you also have to pay taxes on it.
Right.
That doesn't sound very golden years to me.
It's definitely something to be aware of,
Yeah.
especially since those RMDs can push you into a higher tax bracket
Right.
and potentially trigger taxes on your Social Security benefits.
Okay, so Roth accounts seem like they could be a real game changer.
Yeah.
Especially if you can avoid those RMDs and taxes in retirement. But how do you decide which account type is right for you?
Right.
Is there a magic formula?
It's not about finding a one-size-fits-all solution.
Yeah.
It's about looking at your individual circumstances, your income, your goals, and your projected tax bracket, both now and in retirement.
Yeah.
And that's where working with a financial advisor can be incredibly helpful.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So we've covered the basics of the three main account types, taxable, tax-deferred, and Roth.
Right.
But it sounds like the real magic happens when you start thinking about how these accounts work together
Yeah.
as part of your overall retirement plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the most intriguing strategies that bridges these account types is the Roth conversion. It's a way to potentially shift your money from a taxable future to a tax-free one.
Oh, wow.
But it's a bit of a dance, and you have to know the steps.
Okay. I'm definitely intrigued. Roth conversions sound like they deserve their own deep dive.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's unpack those in part 2.
Sounds good.
All right, we're back, and I'm really curious to dig into these Roth conversions.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a lot of potential there, but also some things to watch out for.
You're absolutely right. Roth conversions can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
But they're not for everyone, and the timing can be tricky.
Okay, so for starters, can you remind me what a Roth conversion actually is?
Think of it like moving money from one bucket to another.
Okay.
Specifically from a traditional IRA or 401k, those tax-deferred accounts,
Right.
into a Roth IRA.
Uh-huh.
You're essentially shifting your money from a situation where you'll pay taxes later
Yeah.
to one where it grows tax-free.
Okay.
And you can withdraw it tax-free in retirement.
But you mentioned timing is key.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Well, the trade-off is that when you convert money to a Roth, it's treated as taxable income in the year of the conversion.
Okay.
So let's say you convert $100,000 and you're in the 32% tax bracket.
Okay.
That means you'll owe $32,000 in taxes right then and there.
Ouch, that's a pretty significant chunk of change.
Yeah.
So why would anyone choose to do that?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Haha, right.
The answer lies in thinking long-term.
Okay.
Yes, you're paying taxes now,
Mm-hmm.
but you're essentially prepaying your taxes on that money at today's rates.
Okay.
This could be particularly advantageous if you expect to be in a higher tax bracket in retirement.
Ah, so it's like a bet on your future tax situation.
Right.
If you think your taxes will be higher down the road, it might make sense to bite the bullet and pay them now.
Exactly.
But what if you're wrong?
That's always a risk, of course.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to consider your current financial situation, your future income projections, and factor in potential tax law changes.
Right.
This is where a financial advisor can be a valuable resource to help you weigh the pros and cons.
Okay. I'm starting to see the strategic thinking involved here. It's
Right.
not just a simple yes or no decision.
Right.
There are a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we need to consider with Roth conversions?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Remember those required minimum distributions, or RMDs we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Well, those don't apply to Roth IRAs.
Okay.
So if you convert your money now, you can avoid having to take those mandatory withdrawals later on.
That's a big plus, especially if you don't need the money right away
Right.
and want to let those Roth funds grow tax-free for as long as possible.
Exactly.
I do remember you mentioned something called the 5-year rule earlier.
Yeah.
How does that come into play with Roth conversions?
The 5-year rule is something to be aware of if you're considering converting before age 59 and a half.
Okay.
It basically means that if you withdraw earnings from a Roth IRA that were generated from a conversion before you turn 59 and a half, you'll have to pay a 10% penalty on those earnings.
So there's a bit of a waiting period before you can tap into those converted funds without penalty.
Exactly. Now, if you're over 59 and a half,
Yeah.
the penalty doesn't apply to the converted amount itself.
Okay. But it still applies to any earnings on those funds for the first 5 years after the conversion. Got it. It can get a little complex.
Yeah.
But the key takeaway is to understand the rules and plan your withdrawals accordingly.
Got it. So we've got this powerful tool,
Right.
the Roth conversion,
Yeah.
that can potentially help you avoid taxes and those pesky RMDs down the road.
Exactly.
But it's not a decision to be made lightly.
Right.
You need to do your research, crunch the numbers, and maybe even consult with a financial advisor to make sure it's the right move for you.
You've hit the nail on the head. Roth conversions can be a fantastic strategy,
Yeah.
but they're not for everyone.
Right.
And even if they are a good fit, timing is everything.
Speaking of timing,
Yeah.
are there certain times when Roth conversions make more sense than others? Like, are there specific situations where it might be particularly advantageous?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And there are definitely some scenarios where a Roth conversion can shine.
One is when you find yourself in a lower tax bracket than usual.
Okay.
Maybe you've had a year with lower income, or maybe you're between jobs.
Yeah.
This could be an opportune time to convert some of your traditional IRA funds to a Roth
Okay.
and take advantage of that lower tax rate.
Interesting. So if you're anticipating a big jump in income in the future,
Right.
it might make sense to convert while you're still in a lower bracket.
Exactly.
Almost like you're getting ahead of the game.
Precisely another scenario where a Roth conversion can be beneficial
Okay.
is if you're early in your retirement,
Yeah.
you might have more flexibility to manage your income
Okay.
and potentially stay in a lower tax bracket during those early years,
Right.
making it a good time to strategically convert some of your traditional IRA funds.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about those folks who are already in a higher tax bracket?
Right.
Maybe they're high earners or they have significant investment income.
Yeah.
Are Roth conversions still a good option for them?
For high earners, Roth conversions can be a bit more complex.
Okay.
There are additional tax considerations that come into play, like the net investment income tax or NIIT.
The NIIT, that sounds intimidating. What is that exactly?
It's a 3.8% tax that applies to certain investment income.
Okay.
For individuals with modified adjusted gross incomes above $200,000 or $250,000 for married couples filing jointly.
Wow. So if you're bringing in a significant amount of investment income,
Right.
this NIIT can really add up.
It can, and that's why it's essential for high-income earners to explore strategies that can help mitigate those taxes.
Okay.
And that's where things get even more interesting. We'll dive into those strategies in part 3.
All right. I'm definitely ready to hear more about how to tackle those high-income tax challenges. Let's keep this momentum going. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from those different retirement account flavors to the ins and outs of Roth conversions. Now I'm really curious to hear more about how high earners can navigate those extra tax hurdles.
Right.
Like the NIIT you mentioned.
Yeah. It's a bit of a balancing act.
Okay.
But there are definitely strategies that can make a difference.
Yeah.
One of the most effective is actually pretty simple.
Okay.
Delaying Social Security benefits.
Okay. That's interesting. I know a lot of people are eager to start collecting Social Security as soon as they're eligible. But it sounds like waiting could actually have some tax advantages.
Exactly.
Okay.
Especially if you have other sources of income in retirement.
Right.
Like withdrawals from your retirement accounts or maybe even a part-time job.
Mm-hmm.
Delaying Social Security can potentially lower your overall tax liability.
So you're basically strategically managing your income streams to stay in a lower tax bracket.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And on top of the tax benefits,
Yeah.
delaying Social Security also means you'll receive a larger monthly payment when you do start collecting. It's a win-win.
I like the sound of that. Are there any other strategies specifically for high earners that we should be aware of?
Absolutely. For those who are charitably inclined,
Yeah.
qualified charitable distributions or QCDs.
QCDs.
Yeah.
Refresh my memory on what those are.
Essentially, a QCD allows IRA owners who are 70 and a half or older to donate up to $105,000 directly to charities from their IRAs.
So you're bypassing having to take that money out as income and then donating it.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
And by doing so, that distribution isn't counted towards your taxable income.
Okay.
This can potentially lower your tax bill and even help you avoid the NIIT.
So you're supporting your favorite charities, ND, potentially lowering your tax burden.
Right.
That's a win-win in my book.
Exactly.
But what about those who aren't quite 70 and a half yet?
Yeah.
Are there any other tax optimization tactics they can utilize?
Absolutely. Even if you're ready for QCDs, there are strategies like tax loss harvesting
Okay.
and strategic withdrawals that can make a difference in your annual tax bill.
Okay. Those sound familiar, but break them down for me again.
Think of tax loss harvesting as a way to offset gains with losses.
Okay.
Let's say you've had some investments that have lost value.
Mm-hmm.
You can strategically sell those investments to realize those losses,
Okay.
and then use those losses to offset any capital gains you may have incurred elsewhere.
Right.
This can potentially reduce your overall tax liability for the year.
So it's like making lemonade out of lemons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's strategic withdrawals.
Okay.
This involves carefully timing and coordinating withdrawals from your various retirement accounts to minimize taxes.
Yeah.
Maybe you withdraw a bit more from your taxable account one year
Okay.
and then focus on your tax-deferred account the next, all while keeping an eye on those tax bracket thresholds. It's all about finding the right balance.
It sounds like it takes some finesse to make all these pieces work together.
You're right. It's not about finding a one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
It's about understanding the rules of the game
Yeah.
and making informed decisions based on your individual situation.
I've definitely learned a lot from this deep dive. From those core account types to the strategic withdrawal order and those savvy moves like Roth conversions and QCDs. It feels like we've uncovered a whole toolbox of strategies to help make retirement savings last longer.
And that's the key takeaway here.
Yeah.
It's not just about saving enough. It's about making those savings work as hard for you as possible.
Right.
And that means being tax smart.
I think one of the most important things you've emphasized is that everyone's situation is different. There's no magic formula that applies to everyone.
Absolutely. This deep dive is a starting point. It's about giving you the knowledge and the confidence to have those conversations with a financial advisor and create a plan that's tailored to your specific needs and goals.
So for our listener out there, remember that you have more control over your retirement than you might think. Don't be afraid to ask questions, explore your options, and create a retirement that truly shines.